Hello there and welcome. Come on inside. Hello and welcome. Welcome to the class. I'm glad you're here. I wanted to pop in and do a quick video to kind of explain some things about the class, to tell you why I'm here, what I think the purpose of the class is, and that kind of stuff. Well, first of all, what is this class about anyway? I mean, humanities. Well, the official designation is you're supposed to pick a certain number of areas of the humanities and teach the students some about the terminology, about the techniques people use to interpret humanities, to analyze. That class could be really boring if you wanted it to be. But I try to go a direction that I don't find boring at all, that I find not only important, but also extremely interesting. and that is using the interpretation of the humanities, so interpreting art, interpreting film, interpreting reading, using that to unlock and see parts of myself that are sometimes kind of hard to see because they are so ingrained and buried in me. And so I'm trying to teach you a technique that's actually very practical, which is to use something that seems kind of far out, man, like interpreting humanities, but using that stuff to then do something very practical, which is to examine your own values, your own actions, the way you live, and compare it to the way you want to live and who you want to be and who you think you are. I have certain things that are ingrained in me by my society, by my culture, by my race, by my gender. It's this complicated mishmash of me. And sometimes it's hard to see things that are deeply ingrained in me and understand them. And so I find myself sometimes doing or thinking things that don't align with who I think of myself as or who I want to be. And so I like to kind of bring those things out so I can examine and say, what is it that bothers me? What is not aligning? What doesn't fit with who I want to be and why? And I think that the study of humanities and the arts can help you do that. And we are going to encounter a lot of big ideas, and instead of making you work hard as in the workload, you notice the workload in here is not that big. That's on purpose. We're going to do a lot of thinking in here. You do have work to do, so make sure you do it. That's how you get the A in this class. Just do the stuff, right? But I try to give you more of a challenge intellectually in this class than sheer workload. So we're going to do a lot of thinking in here, and so I'm going to ask you sometimes to step out of your comfort zone in terms of what you think might be true, or what you think I might say something you're like, well, I don't know about that. That's okay. I'm never going to ask you or demand that you agree with me. All I ask you to do is to try out ideas to see if you can grapple with. Sometimes being confused and working your way out of confusion is the very definition of education. Somehow we've got it in our heads that in college your job is to show the professor what you already know. And that's cool to show off. Who doesn't want to do that if you got a skill? However, college is also about not knowing something and trying to learn it. And it's trial and error, and there's a lot of failure that's really valuable in education. So if you struggle with some of the ideas, some of the concepts that we're going to talk about in this class, don't worry, that doesn't mean you're going to fail the class. Stay in touch with me. But all I ask is that you try out the ideas, try to understand. Ask me questions if you don't understand. Be honest, be frank about what you don't understand. I respect that. Now, the Blackboard page will tell you exactly what's required of the class. You notice you got the syllabus up top here. Click on that, check it out, see what's required of the class. It tells you what's graded and all that stuff has deadlines in it. Check out this section that's about your instructor. That's me. There's my goofy face. And then if you scroll down, the important part is here where I'm talking about how to reach me. There's many ways to contact me. You're never bothering me. I like when my students reach out to me. You can talk to me about anything, actually. Anything class related or not. This class will no doubt get a lot of interesting thoughts going in your head. Feel free to I like to talk of all things, and I love to hear from my students. So feel free to reach out to me to discuss anything. Now, here's a bit of advice about Blackboard in general. This is any class you're in. Notice that if you have everything open, all these sections and folders open, it's just cluttered and cluttered. But what you do is you close each section when you're not using it. Close each section when you're not using it, because then it's not, if you're trying to work in this section and this section's open, then it's all going to be too overwhelming and a lot. So if you close the sections, there's a tip for you in general on Blackboard. I recommend that in this class. Also, Another bit of advice, go from the top down. Don't just jump in anywhere. You notice I have these things numbered and lettered so that you can just follow the order they are in on Blackboard, and it makes your life easier. You can go ahead and set them in your calendar. Set all the deadlines and dates and assignments. It's all laid out for you right there. You can set it with alerts and everything. Hey, I want to show you something that could be really helpful to you if you're like, I struggle with reading. Well, here are some things that can really help with that. So we go to a story, and you can notice this little A over here, little A with a down arrow. If you click on that, what it does is offers you now, and a lot of these are new, so check them out. It offers you different ways that you can experience the material. By experience, I mean there are ways to listen to it. Notice you can download an MP3 of it and listen to it on your personal listening device. That sounds so old. You can, there's this thing called Immersive Reader, where the computer shows you each word as it reads it out loud.
All that you love will be carried away. By Stephen King. From the book Everything's Eventual, Scribner Press.
(2002) was a Motel 6 on I-80 just west of Lincoln, Nebraska. The snow that began at mid-afternoon had...
There's a way to view it better on phones, the HTML version. Check out all these different versions. So this is exciting because if you struggle with reading, this can be good practice, because what you can do is download the MP3, for instance, of a voice reading the material, and then as they're reading it, you read it on the page. It'll actually speed up your reading speed. Sure. It'll increase your reading speed and comprehension skills. It's a kind of a good exercise to hear it as you see it. And that immersive reader does that for you too. It shows you each word. It highlights it basically as it says it out loud. So check those out. Those could be game changing if you struggle with keeping up with reading load. Listening may be easier for you to do. And yes, listening to a book or an article does count as reading. Check out the studies on that. If you're like me and you got the ADD and stuff, you might have to rewind some. That's a hazard. But it can be done. I listen to a lot of stuff on audio. I think it's great. Now notice that there says here there's more coming soon. There's a couple places that says that. And that is because I constantly evolve and change this class so I don't get burnt out. That's one thing. And it keeps it fresh for students too. So that means that sometimes I'm still changing stuff around and redoing things when a new semester begins. So that's on purpose. That's intentional. But everything will be posted when it needs to be, and you'll never get a bunch of work piled on you all of a sudden because I finally got caught up. I'm not going to do that kind of thing to you. But I'm letting you know why there's some things that aren't there yet. So stay in touch. I'm glad you're here. I'm looking forward to the semester, and class is going to be great, I think.